6 games down, 6 games victorious. But Saturday night in South Bend, Lincoln Riley's Trojans come to the start of a road to glory. A perilous plunge through historic rivals, an arch nemesis, and a couple of surefire Heisman Trophy contenders. Standing in their way to starts, America's most battle-tested team, the 5-2 Fighting Irish, fresh off 3 brutally exhausting epics. Will they be up for a 4th? Can the Trojans' embattled defense answer the bell against the nation's most experienced passer? It's USC, it's Notre Dame. It's time for the rubber to meet the road.
Rain of Troy Hotline. Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your Rant Line, Rave Line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it. Let's open up that race line! Woohoo!
Oh, I can't believe USC has hired Lincoln Riley. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant of Troy Radio, episode 511, coming to you on Wednesday, October 11th. We're going to preview USC and Notre Dame. The Trojans and the Fighting Irish locking horns at Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, Saturday nights, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on WNBC. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you guys are looking forward to it. We're going to preview it here on the show. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, Rant of Troy. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Rant of Troy. Be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, which I learned no longer exists, by the way. Not Stitcher.
Yes.
Spotify, though. You can find us on Spotify. And, of course, YouTube, where we are live right now. As always, email address, rantoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227, Second Whisper and Show. I'm your host, Michael Castillo, along with my co-host here in the Rant Troy studio in Los Angeles, Alicia Dertola.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. It's got to be your most favorite week of the year. It's USC going up against your alma mater.
This is the time of year when I need to clarify for all of our new listeners or those who have forgotten that I attended Notre Dame High School. Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks.
It's the same thing.
Which is run by the religious order, the same religious order that runs Notre Dame, Holy Cross, also runs Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks.
Right, which means it's the same thing.
So I did come up as a Notre Dame High School not golden. Was it golden or black? Either way, the Knights. We were the Knights.
Do you not remember your high school's mascot?
No, because there was a specific variation between there was a golden Knights and a black Knights, and I think we were the black Knights, but I don't remember. Either way, we were the Knights, the Notre Dame NDHS.
Not the Days, but the Knights.
NDHS is my alma mater, not Notre Dame University, not the University of Notre Dame. I am not one of the Fighting Irish, although we did have the same fight song in high school as Notre Dame. But
seems to me it's all the same.
We would just say, Knights, Knights, Knights instead of anything like Go Irish. So yeah.
As Umaguma in the chat says, potato. Yeah, same thing.
Yeah, Ernesto in the chat says, for the longest time, my dad thought Alicia went to Notre Dame. Yeah,
she did.
This is why I need to clarify that when Michael says it's my alma mater, he means Notre Dame High School.
It's the same thing.
Not Notre Dame University.
It's the same thing. Of course, Notre Dame High School in California, even though there's plenty of Notre Dame High Schools. I think there's like one in every state,
the Notre Dame High School, the home of Trojan legends like Garrett Green, like
the Horton brothers.
Wes and Shane Horton.
Justin Fargas.
That's correct. Yeah. I mean, also like Dane Christ and those who went to Notre Dame University as well, but yeah.
Well, that high school in
USC,
California.
I believe. Yeah, USC Psycho, I think, also went to NDHS. So
our friend Simon from Traveler Hates Thursdays.
Thursday. The USC podcaster from, Simon, me, Psycho.
The point is, the high school is in California. The
Yes.
university is in Indiana,
Yes.
a state that's important because, ladies and gentlemen, you can join DraftKings over there and help support the show because Trojan fans, DraftKings is running a new promotion that you won't want to miss. New users can place a $5 first bet to instantly claim $200 in bonus bets. You'll also be rewarded with a separate no sweat single game parlay every single day when you opt in. All you have to do is sign up with our code Reign of Troy, all one word. And using our code Reign of Troy not only gets you these great bonuses, but also helps you directly support the podcast when you're in Indiana this week to support the Trojans. So if you're considering signing up for DraftKings, be sure to use the code Reign of Troy. Of course, this offer is only available for new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states, such as Indiana, Illinois, Michigan, any of those states that you're probably going to be near in.
Or maybe you're taking a flight and you got a layover in I don't know,
in
Denver or
Denver works. Yeah. You got a layover in Connecticut. Weird that you would, but if you do,
hey,
you're flying through Hartford or something.
Yeah,
that works. Anyways, please. As always, gamble responsibly. The new offer is only available to those who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. And check the episode description for the full terms for the offer to see if you qualify. There you go. We've done it. Alicia, it's a big game. I think we just need to get right into it. So I'm going to hit the news drop, even though we don't have news, and pretend like it's the chime to get into the preview.
Let's do it.
All right.
The news is that Zachariah Branch is practicing.
There you go.
That's the news.
That's big.
Limited participation, but practicing.
That's big because when I was looking through the stats earlier, Notre Dame is like 120 something in kickoff return defense.
Yeah, so it would be nice to
there
have
you go.
Zachariah Branch in this game. Yes, absolutely.
There's a little nugget for you. Let's talk about the matchup, USC and Notre Dame locking horns for the billionth time, the great intersectional rivalry, the last time in the Pac-12 era, which does not matter because it's not a Pac-12 opponent. The Irish are 5-2, coached by Marcus Freeman. He's 14-7 in 21 games. The last meeting, of course, between the Trojans and the Irish last year, 38-27, a win for USC in the last game of the year at the Coliseum. Notre Dame 5-2, but they are in a crazy stretch of games. 5-2 after losing to Ohio State 3 weeks ago, barely beating Duke, needed to pull out like a 4th and 17
mm-hmm.
On the final
last
drive.
Minute. Yeah, they scored a touchdown in 30 seconds left, I think.
Yeah, to beat Duke. And then they kind of fell apart last week against Louisville on the road, who's undefeated and looks pretty damn good. So they've had a tough road. The Trojans, their 4th straight undefeated ranked opponent, which is going to be difficult for them. The Irish ranked 21st in the AP and the coaches polls, a little bit better in the metrics, 12th in SP+, 12th in FEI, 16th in Sagarin. It won't be easy, and it especially won't be easy because of the weather. I pulled up the weather earlier today. The daytime, which this is going to be a 7:30 kickoff, so take that for what it's worth.
7:30 local, 4:30
Yeah, 7:30 local time in Indiana when you're there on your DraftKings trip, of course. Occasional light rain, high of 53 during the day with a chance of rain at 70%. The nighttime, and the reason I read the day versus the night, because I've always wondered, what qualifies as night? I know it's
after sunset,
when the sun goes down,
when
obviously,
the sun is
but
no longer present.
Well, yes. I took 3rd grade, but like with the weather, like when do they qualify this as night? Like what counts as night? Is 6 p.m. the same as 3 a.m.? That's a wide gap. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's difficult. Anyways, nighttime. Showers in the evening with some clearing out overnight. Low of 44 degrees. 50% chance of rain. So 70 during the day, 50% at night. Let's call it 60% for kickoff. Is that fair? Split the difference?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's how weather reports work, but sure.
Something like that.
Either way, the weather will not be idyllic. It doesn't sound like it's going to be, hurricane force stormage or anything like that. But USC is also a team that traditionally doesn't have to play in inclement weather. And so anytime there is a bit of rain, it's something that is different that USC has to be prepared for and also understand that might cause some weirdness.
Yeah, Paul in the chat says last time I checked, rain will affect both teams, not just USC, as the national pundits think. Yeah, rain does affect both teams. I don't know how much it matters. It's always difficult to say. I think everyone sort of assumes that, that means they won't be able to throw the football. I don't know how much that matters. They're also playing on artificial turf. So it's not like the field is just going to be mush.
Yeah.
Also, if it's 70% during the day and 50% at night, that's a 30% chance during the day and a 50% chance at night that it does not rain.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's very possible it just doesn't rain. So
it's just something USC has to be prepared for, and we've seen videos from practice where they're throwing water at the kick returners and everything like that, so that they're doing the wet ball thing, which is definitely what you have to do. You have to be prepared for it.
I'll tell you where I'm worried about it from the SC side. Snaps.
Yeah, well, the snaps have not been great.
Snaps
lately.
and mesh points.
Yeah.
I don't want to get ahead of myself and have a major spoiler to something later on in the show. But the Trojans have had issues with fumbles in the backfield, whether it be snaps or mesh point mishaps. So that's got to get cleaned up because that absolutely is the problem area. I'm more so worried about that than I am about.
But even if
the lack of throwing the football,
even if it doesn't rain, that could still be an issue. That could still be something that USC needs to clean up and be conscious of, because when it comes down to it, this game, it is a very tight game. Like the odds makers have it essentially as a toss up.
Yeah.
And when you're playing in that kind of game, turnovers are critical. Notre Dame lost last week to Louisville because they had 5 turnovers. You do not win games that you turn the ball over, more than the other team. So those kinds of things are all going to be part of it. And so cleaning up the snaps, cleaning up the mesh point, and also making sure that everyone has ball security in mind throughout the game is going to be critical.
Yeah, 100%. Let's talk about the Notre Dame offense. The Irish ranked 24th in SP Plus on offense, led by Sam Hartman, who's been a quarterback in college football for about 96 years. Sporter of one of the thickest beards I've ever seen in my life. Like, on a scale of like Sidney Crosby to what's a thick beard? He's like at the end of the thick beard list. Like he might be the guy. Like Sidney Crosby to the other end. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is a luscious beard. 64.5% completion percentage so far this season. 16 touchdowns, 3 picks. Passer rating of $168.6, which is pretty solid. All 3 of those picks came last week against Louisville. And then the interesting part is you look at the splits. First 4 games of the year, Notre Dame looked like they had one of the best offenses in the country. They were up there with SC, Washington, and Oregon as the elite offenses. Then the last 3 games happened. They faced really good defenses. They've played rough ranked teams. And Sam Hartman's numbers have come down mightily. 58% completion percentage, His yards per attempt went from 11.8 in the first 4 games against unranked opponents to just 7 yards per attempt the last 3 games. 3 touchdowns and 3 picks in the last 3 games. Again, all those 3 picks against Louisville with a quarterback rating of a $121.1, which is nowhere near his quarterback rating versus unranked opponents, which is 217. What does that mean? Does that mean that this is an offense that isn't good, or does it mean that this is an offense who has had a run of games against really, really good defenses and pass defenses? I don't know. I think that's going to be one of the questions that we're going to have to find out. We know that the Trojans more along the lines of an unranked defense than a ranked team defense, if you want to put it that way. But it's going to be tough. When we previewed the season and did our season previews, we went game by game, making all of our predictions. We got many a comment at the time because we both predicted that SC would lose the Notre Dame game. There were many a comment like, who is Sam Hartman going to throw to? Who's he going to throw to? And here we are in October, and I think the biggest question for Notre Dame on offense is, who is Sam Hartman throwing the football to? That's the big question. Mitchell Evans, the tight end, is the go-to target. 22 catches, 343 yards, and a touchdown. He replaces Michael Mayer, who was everything last year for the Irish at tight end. Outside of that, the receiver core is sort of all over the place. Chris Tyree, Jaden Thomas, Jaden Greathouse, who I think has been battling an injury. Jordan Faison just moved over from the lacrosse team and is now on scholarship after catching 2 passes, including a touchdown for 48 yards against Louisville last week. So I don't know what to make of the Notre Dame offense. Elite in the first 4 games, very sputtery since. Is that more about the defenses they've played? Is it about this offense maybe not being as good as those first 4 games and that was just a mirage? What do you say?
Yeah, I think it's difficult. You will look around the country. I've seen and talked to some Notre Dame fans who are really, really down on their offense. They're really down on their offensive coordinator, who was probably a questionable hire in the first place. So that's not necessarily a surprise. People are very, very down on the Notre Dame offense, and I just want to pump the brakes on this idea that Notre Dame's offense is like trash. Is Notre Dame's offense elite? No, Notre Dame's offense is not in the same tier as USC, Oregon, Washington, LSU. But that doesn't mean they aren't capable of being a very good offense. I think that people are mistaking the performances of the last 3 weeks for, well, it was all paper tiger in the first 3 weeks. The defenses that they have faced in the last 3 weeks are all top 20 defenses in S&P Plus. Ohio State's number 6, Duke is 19, Louisville 18.
Mm-hmm.
By comparison, USC's defense ranks 61st in S&P Plus. So it's not even the same matchup for this Notre Dame offense. Notre Dame's offense should be looking at USC and thinking that they have the opportunity to put up points more similarly to what they did in the first 4 games of the season. They had 40 plus points on the first 3 FBS opponents that they faced. And those were teams that certainly have bad defenses. Navy ranks 98th and Central Michigan ranks 129th in SP Plus defense. But NC State's defense is ranked 30th nationally, and they gave up 40 points to Notre Dame. And, the SP Plus stuff, it's not necessarily the end-all, be-all, but it's important to note that USC's defense is not in the same class as Ohio State, Louisville, or Duke in terms of their defenses. So don't get this idea that Notre Dame isn't capable of putting up as many points as the other offenses that USC has faced.
Mm-hmm.
This is still probably maybe it's competing with Colorado for the most dangerous passing offense that USC has faced.
Yeah. I would put Colorado ahead just because I think they have better receivers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
And I think that Shedeur Sanders, even though I wouldn't classify him as a runner, he did beat SC with his legs at times, right? And I wouldn't classify Sam Hartman as a runner too, but not a stone foot guy. So
Yeah. But the receiving core for Notre Dame is definitely where you
it's
look
the question mark. Yeah.
and think like, I don't know where they have their playmakers. But the thing is that it's not like USC's defense has needed the opposing team to have spectacular playmakers to
Right.
give up big plays. They are dealing with injuries. Jaden Thomas and Jaden Greathouse are both coming back from hamstring injuries that are hamstring injuries are just notoriously the kind of thing that takes a little while to get over. So they're not going to be at 100%. Jordan Faison, the dude who wasn't on scholarship this time last week, is looking like one of their more explosive players. But we've seen USC give up explosive plays to everyone that they face. So it's not really, to me, a question of, well, Notre Dame doesn't have a great receiving core, therefore USC's defense is going to be fine. Like, the problem for USC's defense is that they have made every receiving core that they have played look like they are capable of breaking off big pass plays. On top of that, Audric Esme is a really, really good running back. And I think that it's pretty clear to me that one of the reasons that Notre Dame had so much trouble with Louisville specifically last week and lost that game is because they didn't get their ground game going, because Estime was completely shut down and only got 10 carries in that game. And the offense was sort of having to run through Sam Hartman, and then he threw a bunch of picks. And that's just a recipe for burying a team. Well, is USC capable of holding someone like Audric Estime to, under 100 yards rushing? That's a big question that I have for this defense. I don't think I've seen USC's defense really shut down a rushing attack to the degree that that they need to in order to be able to put the pressure on Sam Hartman that they want to be putting the pressure on. So again, I go back to, it's not that Notre Dame's defense is elite, but they have enough pieces in place there.
I mean, Notre Dame's offense.
Yeah, sorry, Notre Dame's offense. It's not that they're elite. It's they just have enough pieces there that why couldn't they do some damage to USC when ASU did damage to USC?
That's the thing. I think that, you can sit here and on one hand say, maybe SC is getting Notre Dame at the right time. Their offense has struggled the last 3 weeks. And I think there's a genuine question of, is it just because they were playing good defenses, or is this more in line with what Notre Dame's offense is? But you can't really take that completely seriously when you have a defense of SC sort, which gave up 41 points on the road to Colorado, a team that we talked about all week had matched up well and played well in the first half and then just crumbled in the second half against Colorado. A defense that spotted Arizona 17 points early on in the game, right? It's really difficult. It's really difficult to say that stuff. We got a question in the chat from Tim in LA, who says, I need the return of the ROT index. Offense and defense have been struggles the past week. So what are the magic numbers for both sides of the ball? The ROT index that we used to have, which was basically just, here's the number, and if SC scores more than this number, then they should win, whatever it is. We ended up scrapping it because it ended up just not really working all the time. Even though I liked it as a talking point until our friend Richard was like, isn't that basically just what the prediction is? I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but the ROT index also got tired because Clay Helton teams were just always the same thing every single week. So it wasn't like
so
the ROT index probably works way better as a discussion point for this particular
I think it
team.
works great for this defense because we were talking about it in the CarCast. You look at, I think, genuinely, the ROT index starts at 28 for every single opponent. You just start at 28. No matter who you're facing, it's 28. Expect them to score 28 points. The better the offense is, you add more points. Are they a offense that has a good quarterback and a good running game and all those things? Okay, move it up to 35. Is it an offense that is truly elite? Move it up to 42. just in a very basic guideline, right? If it's a bad offense, maybe move it down to 21. If it's a historically bad offense, move it to 14, right? But you start at 28. And I think when you're talking about this Notre Dame team, you start at 28 and then consider that it should be on the upper side of that, probably based on Sam Hartman's experience and all of that.
They have a better offensive line than Colorado.
Yes.
They have the better quarterback than ASU. They have a better running back than any of those teams that USC has faced. And they probably have the least inspiring receiving core that USC has faced thus
it's on
far.
The road.
But they might have the best tight end that USC will have faced so far. So
yes. But it's on the road. And so because of Notre Dame's form, I'm hesitant to put the index at 35. I'm hesitant to give them that full 7.
Oh, I'm fully ready to give them that personally. I'm at 35.
Because of Notre Dame's form. So I think for me, it's at 31. Expect that Notre Dame's going to score 31 points. If you're going to beat Notre Dame this week, you have to score more than 31 points.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yes, I'm personally willing to go to 35.
Okay.
I think USC has to score at least 35 points to have a chance to win this game.
That's fair. I think that's valid. Anywhere in that window, low to mid 30s, I think is the number. And I think if SC is going to win the game, they're going to have to score a fair amount of points. Of course, they're going to have to do that against anybody. Let's talk about the USC defense going against the Notre Dame defense. The Irish 10th in the country in SP Plus on defense, scoring D just allowing 15.9 points a game. Then again, the Trojans, the number one scoring offense in the country. What does that mean? It means that SC reliably can score points even when they're not scoring points, or even when the offense is not great. Last week, they were not great. They scored 28 points in regulation in a game in which the offense looked the worst they haven't had in a year. They still scored 28 points in regulation. Overtime points that are just fantastical magic points. They don't really count, let's be honest. But SC scored 28 points. In this game, they're going to need to at least score that many. We just talked about it. You're probably going to want 31, 35 points somewhere in there at least against Notre Dame. This is the defense that struggles maybe to make havoc plays up front. They don't get after the quarterback necessarily well. The pass rush isn't necessarily there. There's guys to watch like Howard Cross III at defensive tackle. I think it's going to be an interesting guy. 42 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, a couple of forced fumbles. JT Bertrand in the middle at the mic will be an interesting guy to keep an eye on. But the story for the Irish is in the secondary. Xavier Watts, 2 picks, 29 tackles, tackle and a half for loss, 3 pass breakups. Then there's Benjamin Morrison, who has a pick, 5 PBUs, and a tackle for loss at corner. These are the dudes. This is a pass D that is absolutely just bottling up, opposing offenses. I don't know that they have played a pass offense of SC's caliber. Certainly not, but they don't allow much through the air. Is this a concern for SC, given that the Arizona game was a struggle for Caleb Williams mightily on offense?
Yeah, this is hard to say because I think Notre Dame clearly has a good defense, but in truth, they haven't really been tested in the air yet. When Ohio State and Kyle McCord are the best passing offense that you have faced this year, you have not faced an elite passing offense, especially Ohio State as they currently are. Like, I think by the end of the season, maybe Kyle McCord and that offense will be a little bit more in sync and feel and know what they are about. But clearly in the first half of this season, I don't think Ohio State's passing offense has been anything really to write home about. So in that sense, this is their first true test against a passing offense that is just bonkers. And the thing about USC's passing offense is you can point certainly to the fact that USC in the first 6 games have not played any really elite defenses themselves.
Mm-hmm.
but we're also able to base the power of USC's passing offense on past results. This isn't just a paper tiger that hasn't played anybody on defense. This passing offense was elite last year. They continue to be elite because Caleb Williams and the offensive scheme dictates that is the case. So I am very curious to see how Notre Dame does against sort of this approach from USC, because that's the one angle to me that could be USC saving grace here, because if Notre Dame's defense is as stout as they've looked, I think before the Louisville game, they were looking really exceptional. Louisville started to show a lot of the cracks in that defense. Certainly at the end of that game, the defensive collapse in the fourth quarter against Louisville has got to be something that USC looks at and hopes to take advantage from the offensive perspective.
I wonder if that's just body blow.
That's the hard part too, is when you've played ranked team after ranked team after ranked team, and you're on the road. This is not just your third ranked opponent, but your second ranked road game.
Mm-hmm.
And the two games before that were all decided in the final 30 seconds of the game.
Right.
Like, yes, there is certainly an element of that might have just caught up to you. But at the same time, USC it's not like Notre Dame had any extra time to rest after that Louisville game. The body blow theory is still in play as USC goes to Notre Dame. And the cracks in that defense are something that I think USC is going to want to absolutely exploit, not just in the passing game, but in the rushing attack as well. Notre Dame's run defense was not good last year. I think that their defense might have improved slightly, but maybe in the same way that USC's defense maybe got slightly better, but still is pretty bad on many, many fronts. So we're going to talk in over under a little bit more about that, but I think there's also an element of will USC be able to keep the ball on the ground and also provide some balance that is a way to unlock this Notre Dame defense as well. Because I think theoretically USC might be the most balanced offense potentially that Notre Dame will have faced this year as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very fascinating to see what SC looks like, because I wasn't worried about SC's offense at all until the Arizona game.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about before that it sort of felt like nitpicking to point out the struggles of the offense up until the Arizona game, where it's like Caleb Williams doesn't look right here,
and the offensive line didn't.
The offensive line doesn't look right. The run game is just not nearly as potent as it was before. I think the offense has been good enough to have a mulligan game and be allowed that. We saw it last year with the Oregon State game. It's very possible that was just all that was, the Arizona game. But we don't know that for sure. We got to see that. They have to prove that was the case, right? So I don't know. I don't know what to make of this offense, but if anything else, I trust Caleb Williams more than anything else. I trust Caleb Williams more than any player in college football. And he's the X factor that I don't think that Notre Dame has faced. They faced an Ohio State team that didn't have CJ Stroud. They faced a Louisville team that didn't have a Lamar Jackson. Caleb Williams is at the top of his game just in general. And if he's able to, play like he is in South Bend, then that's the factor that SC has in their favor that I don't necessarily think that Notre Dame can keep up with. We talk about shootouts. There's a question in the chat about can SC win a shootout here? I think if there's a shootout, I don't that absolutely, I think, bodes well for SC. Because if this turns into an absolute sprint where it's a shootout, I think SC has the massive advantage on offense to keep up with Notre Dame that way. And is Notre Dame going to be able to keep up? Notre Dame's defense is too good where I wouldn't necessarily expect it to be a shootout, but I could see some sort of game where if things go right for SC, this ends up like last year's game.
Which was the game that Caleb Williams won the Heisman.
Yes,
So, like, that's
right.
so
Yeah.
yes, in a shootout,
Yeah.
USC has a chance.
That wasn't a shootout though, but like it
No.
was a game in which SC got a lot of production even without while being more methodical.
Yes.
And I think that if they can do that, they can, go out there, score 38 points, hold Notre Dame to that 28, whatever it is. That's probably the recipe for the ideal win here, for the Trojans.
But a lot of, the recipe last year would be absolutely the ideal win for USC here. But so much of that too was about USC physically setting a tone in
Right.
that game, particularly on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And it's harder to trust at this stage.
When they don't have Voorhees.
When they don't have Voorhees
Yeah.
and they don't have
Nealon.
and they don't have the guys who led the way on that offensive line in that game against Notre Dame, most of them are gone. And the replacements coming from last week certainly got a little bit exposed against Arizona.
Mhm.
And that is my big question mark. I'm not saying that USC can't do the same thing as they did last year.
Yeah.
It's a question of how do the guys who didn't get the job done last week respond going on the road to Notre Dame, and having to try and create that physical statement that USC made at the
Mhm.
Coliseum to recreate it in South Bend. I think that's a difficult job and a difficult thing for me to pin my hopes on, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I think the only other thing I would say is the last 2 times the Trojans have been to South Bend, they've lost 2019 and 2021. I don't know that even though Sam Hartman is a better quarterback than Notre Dame has had in a while, I don't know that Notre Dame as a team is massively different than either one of those 2 teams. And I thought SC played very well in both of those losses. All things considered, the 2019 game, Keaton Slovis, I thought he had the best game of his career.
Well, 3-point loss, yeah.
Obviously, like he torched Stanford, but like I thought the most impressive game of his career was the Notre Dame loss in 2019. SC answered the bell. In 2021, they're without a head coach. They had many opportunities. All things considered, they played well enough to have a better result, but they still, the scoreline wasn't there. But
they had their chances. Yeah.
But like it was the Dante Williams era, and whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think that South Bend is this overly scary place to play, but the Trojans haven't won there since 2011, which makes it difficult in that sense. But I think that if SC answers the bell, and is able to move the ball on offense, kind of like they did in 2019, then I think then things will bode well. That's where it starts. It starts on offense. As frustrating as that may be, in this era of what USC football is, that's what it is. You need your offense to be elite more than anything.
This absolutely does come down to USC's offense against Notre Dame's defense. And I think a lot of the focus going into this game is on Notre Dame's offense against USC's defense.
Yeah.
Which to me is the most obvious outcome here is just that USC's defense will give up points and Notre Dame's offense will maybe sabotage themselves a few times to not like go crazy and score 40 the way that we expect other elite, like the big time offenses USC plays.
Right.
The big question that I have is whether or not USC's offense is capable of scoring the 40 points in this game against a good defense, against a defense that's going to have more of a chance of slowing them down the way that Arizona slowed them down. That's the matchup for me. It comes down to how much is USC's offense able to to carry everything else.
Yeah. Let's get to over under. It's a big one, and I'm excited about this one because I think the lines are good. I think it's going to be an interesting conversation here.
So you're going over.
I'm feeling bold. Give me that over.
I'll go under. I got to take an under here. I got 3 unders to take.
I'm going to do an under here.
All right, let's start the standings going into this. I have a lead, 20-16, baby. Hell yeah. And you are just a lowly 17-19. Realistically, it's probably going to switch this week. You'll go 6-0, and I'll be the one all boober faced, but we'll see. Let's start with your first over under. What do you got?
I got 191.5 Notre Dame rushing yards, which is such a high line, but there's a reason behind this. So 5 of the 6 USC opponents so far this season have either had their season high or their second best rushing performance of the season against FBS opponents. I took Notre Dame's. I took the FCS opponents out of the equation, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Which is weird to have to say with Notre Dame.
Not with Notre Dame, with
the opponents, with the opponents,
with everybody else who played an FCS opponent. I didn't count because everybody who played an FCS opponent had their season high rushing. So I was like, this is pointless. So San Jose State had 198 yards. That was their season high. Stanford had 209 yards. That was their season high. Colorado, 193 yards. That was their season high. ASU, 90 yards. That was their second best rushing performance of the season. Arizona, 203 yards, second best of the season. The only team that USC has played so far that did not have their first or second best rushing performance of the season was Nevada, who had a season low of 49 yards, which is just sort of random.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Notre Dame's rushing high of the season was against Central Michigan. They had 236 rushing yards in that game. Their second best rushing performance of the season was 191 yards against Navy. So my line is 191.5 because it's a question of whether or not Notre Dame will have their best or second best rushing performance of the season so far. For some reference, they only had 44 rushing yards against Louisville. Louisville has a good rushing defense, a good defense overall. And one of the big reasons why Louisville was able to do to Notre Dame's offense what they did is because they completely shut down that rushing attack and forced Sam Hartman to force the ball and turn the ball over. So if USC wins this game, I think a lot of it will come down to whether or not they are able to limit the Notre Dame rushing attack to the degree that they aren't getting run over the way that we have seen them get run over by many, many, many teams.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. You look at the last trips to Notre Dame. 2021, SC gave up a $170. 2019, 308. 2017, it was 377. 214 in 2015. It's been a lot. Everything says to take the over here. Literally everything says to take the over. Let's get nuts. I'm taking the under. And I'm taking the under for one reason. I think that we know that SC makes a lot of negative plays. That includes sacks. That includes tackles for loss. I think Notre Dame gets over 200 rushing yards in positive yardage. When you talk about net yards, which is what rushing yards is, SC barely gets the under here. Barely. It just seems high. It seems high.
So high.
Mostly because they're coming off of 44 against Louisville. And I know that SC doesn't have the rush defense that Louisville has, but it just seems a little high. A little high. I'm going to regret that one, but we'll see.
We'll see.
My first over-under is 4.5 Notre Dame tackles for loss. The Trojans allowed a season-high 7 tackles for loss against Arizona after not allowing more than 4. It had been 4 or fewer in each of the first 5 games of the season. Notre Dame ranks 120th in tackles for loss per game at 4.29. Notre Dame's defense, great as a pass defense, but they do not make a lot of havoc plays up front. Kind of like the inverse of the SC defense in that way, by the way. 120th nationally in tackles for loss that they generate. SC 25th in preventing them at exactly 4 per game. Notre Dame's average in getting them, by the way, 4.29. So the line is 4.5 Notre Dame tackles for loss. Can they get above 4? Only Arizona's done it. Can they do it?
I am taking the under on this out of pure respect for Caleb Williams and his ability to escape and to get away. I don't like Duke and Louisville giving up 6 and 5 makes me a little bit more nervous about this one, but I gotta take the under just because this isn't a defense that's selling out for the havoc plays, and I think natural sacks are going to be difficult for them to achieve just because of the Caleb Williams of it all.
All right. I think that's fair. I sort of agree with that. Except,
but I think it could just be 4. So I'm happy with taking that under.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think that it's a high line for sure. I think this also depends on. I don't believe things like fumbles that you recover in your own backfield count as a tackle for loss per se. So spoiler alert to the future, by the way. But yeah, I think that's fair. It's gonna be if this is an over for Notre Dame, that's bad news. That's absolutely bad news for SC.
Yes.
Let's go to the next one. What do you got?
I got 4.5 USC yards per carry. Sticking with the ground game over unders because I think this is where a lot of the interest and intrigue and the small margins that are going to be won or lost in this game. Last year, USC set the tone against Notre Dame with Austin Jones on the ground. He carried the ball 25 times, 154 yards. USC gained 204 yards on the ground. They averaged 5.23 yards per carry. We went into that game knowing that Notre Dame's rush defense was vulnerable, and USC took advantage, made a statement physically up front, and ran the ball. They chose to run the ball in that game. In the last 3 weeks, Notre Dame has been susceptible to the run. They have given up 4.6 yards per carry in their last 3 opponents: Ohio State, Duke, Louisville. That was after starting the season looking stronger in terms of run defense. They had only given up 3.04 yards per carry to their first 3 FBS opponents. Now, the problem with this, the reason I didn't go higher necessarily, is because USC averaged 3.8 yards per carry against Colorado, averaged 4.42 yards per carry against Arizona. It's tricky with this because sack yardage is counted, and I hate that, and that's stupid, but them's the breaks. I just don't want to have to be calculating things crazily in my,
Hey, Step Broadcast makes it easy.
This is true.
Yeah.
But USC also, before those last 2 games, had been running the ball extremely well with stupid high averages. So this will be a really interesting matchup, not just about whether or not USC is capable of running the ball, but whether they choose to run the ball, and whether or not they go out there and try to set the tone again in a very similar way.
Yeah, I am going to beckon the chat here and echo the chat and take the over on 4.5 yards per carry for the Trojans. I don't know that SC is going to run the ball greatly against them. I don't think they're going to have like a 7 yards per carry average, even though if they did, that's a win immediately. If SC averages 7 yards per carry, it's like an automatic win.
7 yards per carry, and they only run the ball 5 times.
Well, okay. Touche. Maybe not, but
and on the graphics, it's yards per rush because yards per carry was too long. It wanted to go down to 2 lines.
It's the same thing.
For the record in the chat, the question of it.
Yeah, So the way I see it, I think SC absolutely can get to 4.5. Last year they were over 4.5 in literally every game until the Pac-12 championship game when there were those injuries on the offensive line. Yes, the Arizona game and the Colorado game are concerning. 2 games in a row, the SC is sort of under that. I just have to think that they can find a way to get back over that, especially if Zachariah Branch is back in. I think that maybe adds a little wrinkle for 2 reasons. One, maybe it brings back sort of those option plays that they had in the first week of the season against San Jose State, unless that was just put it on film BS that doesn't matter, which I think is possible, by the way. Or they have to account for him, and they have to put another guy on the field to account for him, which maybe puts fewer guys in the box, and then that's more opportunities to run that way. So I don't know. I don't think 4.5 yards is too much to ask for. SC doesn't have to gash them, and they can still get 4.5 yards per carry. So that's where I am.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. What's your next one?
It's your next one.
Oh, it is my next one. Yeah. It is my next one. Yeah, I would play the chat is wanting me to play the choose not to run, but I don't have the full soundboard set up right now. The small soundboard, it's not on there right now. Sorry. I'm sorry in advance. I will just here let's do it. Ready? Because I choose not to run. There it goes. Maybe I will, Lois. Maybe I will. Okay, I'll stop quoting Seinfeld. People are tuning out left and right. Here we go. My next over under is over under 6.005 USC yards per play. Why? Because the Trojans 7.15 yards per play last year against Notre Dame was exactly 1 whole yard higher than anyone had put up against the Irish. Navy had 6.15, but Notre Dame's average last year was 5.15. The Trojans did 2 whole yards, better than that when they played them. This year, Notre Dame's defense is better. They're holding teams to 4.44 yards per play. That's 11th in the country. That's very good. Although, in the last 3 weeks, it's at 5.2 when you play Ohio State, Duke, and Louisville. So Ohio State averaged 5.63 yards per play in South Bend 3 weeks ago on that very plastic field. The Trojans are second in the country in yards per play at 8.45. I don't think it's a crazy ask to ask for SC to get to 6, to get over 6, but that's where the line is. 6.005 yards per play for USC.
I am smashing the over on this one. I feel pretty good about doing the over. I think that I am not going to bet on USC's passing offense being as toothless as it was against Arizona. I think it's safe to say that Caleb Williams will throw the ball better than he did against Arizona, and by that alone, I think that the yards per play will be better than they were against Arizona. So I'm pretty bullish on taking the over there.
I think that's a very good spot. Even if Caleb isn't the Caleb that we saw against Colorado for the first 3 quarters, or the Caleb that we saw against Stanford.
Yeah.
There is a Caleb in between that Caleb and the Caleb that was that played against Arizona.
And that's
right?
that's better than 6 yards per play.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Let's get to your last over under. What do you got?
I got 5.5 third downs converted by Notre Dame. Now this is really interesting. USC has not held a team under 5 third downs converted this year except for 1. Stanford had 4. USC forces a ton of third downs. They are like top 10, top 15 in terms of third downs faced this year. But they give up a lot. 39%. Not a good metric for USC on that front. And it's one of the big reasons why USC's defense is what it is, because they have a really, really hard time getting off the field. Interestingly enough, Notre Dame has a really hard time staying on the field. They have not converted more than 5 third downs this season against an FBS opponent. The only time they have converted more than 5 was their FCS opponent this season. They also face a ton of third downs, but they don't do a good job of converting them. Their conversion rate is pretty poor. Against Duke, they were 3 of 15. Against Louisville, they were 3 of 13. That's real bad. No wonder they struggled offensively. So I'm sort of just looking at it and thinking, well, is this the movable object meeting the stoppable force?
Yeah.
And who comes out on top in this very, very not good metric battle? I'm mad at myself for not having it at 4.5 for the record, but it's
just because we're just gonna have a million 4.5 lines. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that too, but also because USC has given up 5 third downs converted more often than not this season. That's their number that the USC defense gives up. They just love giving up 5. So I should have just done it at 4.5. But we're stuck. We're fine.
First of all, this is such a weird thing for my brain to comprehend, because I only look at third downs as conversion rate. That's what my brain logs. The number does not matter to me.
It was 8 of 16 for Arizona, 9 of 18 for Colorado, for the record.
Yeah,
and
really
so bad.
It is, yeah, but that number doesn't really log for me, and I think that I think that if Notre Dame is able to move on this defense, which we think that they will be, obviously, right? Then I think that means long drives. Given that, I think that's probably the sweet spot, because Notre Dame has struggled on offense the last 3 weeks. SC is a defense that we know is willing to give up yards and those things and big plays. I think the middle ground is probably that means that Notre Dame just is able to go on longer drives than anything, and that's the sweet spot between whether or not Notre Dame is, better than the last few weeks on offense versus what they will be against SC. So I think they could easily get the over here and not necessarily be a great third down team. It could be 6 of 18. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It could be 6 of 18 where they get 3 third downs on one drive. I don't think that's crazy to ask for. So I'm taking the over. Okay. And then there's always the possibility that they're just boffo on third down and SC has no answer. And they go, 8 of 12 or something, and then get the over that way. So either way, I think the over is the right pick here. Let's go to my last one, which is going to be everyone's favorite, probably. Over under 1.5 USC backfield fumbles. Here's what we're calling a backfield fumble: a fumbled snap or a botched mesh point handoff. Or Caleb just fumbles in the backfield, whatever. So fumbles on a snap.
Does a strip sack count?
Strip sack counts.
Okay. So fumbles that are behind the line of scrimmage.
Yes. The only thing I'm not going to count is a fumbled bubble screen or something like that to a receiver. That's not the spirit of what this is.
A fumble between the tackle boxes.
Sure, yes. But if Caleb gets tackled outside of the box and strips, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
If Caleb or a running back or the snap is fumbled,
we will be able to evaluate and agree with what the spirit of this of what a backfield fumble counts as. Yeah.
Yes, Zach Branch fumbles a bubble screen that doesn't count here, but unless Zach Branch is the mesh man.
Which again, we will be the determiner. Michael and I will agree on what this number is at the end when we are calculating what over under is.
So I'm so confused as to what the numbers are, because CFP Stats says that the Trojans have fumbled 9 times. 9 times, which is 102nd in FBS. but they've only lost 3 of those 9. SC, their own stats say that SC has fumbled 8 times. I went through the play-by-plays, and I could only find 7 fumbles. So I'm confused exactly what the number is. Either way, the last 3 games, for sure, SC has fumbled twice in the backfield against Arizona, had 1 fumbled snap at Colorado, and had 2 fumbles in the backfield against ASU. So 5 in the last 3 games, for sure. That's the for sure point. Sagar in the chat says, is that fumbles lost key difference? No, this is just fumbles. Just fumbles.
Yeah.
If it's fumbles lost, that's bad news for SC, absolutely.
Yeah.
But fumbles, just fumbles in the backfield. We know that the snaps have been an issue. We know that the mesh point has been an issue. It's I think one of the issues that Caleb needs to get better at is the mesh point, because I think he tries to make the decision at the last possible moment, and sometimes that backfires. We saw it against Notre Dame last year. Sometimes it's beautiful when he can pull it at the last second and literally take it back away from Austin Jones and then walk into the end zone and win the Heisman. It's not great when it ends up being a situation with Marshawn Lloyd where no one knows who's getting the ball. So, what's your take? Over under 1.5 fumbles in the backfield?
I have to go under on this.
Okay. It is rainy.
I know,
potentially,
but now we have seen USC have things that were plaguing them at certain segments of the season continue. The total of non-bad snaps and all of that. Like we've seen that continue well.
Sorry to everyone's PTSD that just flared up. Yeah.
Well further than you would have ever just by the sheer sort of statistical value or sheer luck or whatever that you would have assumed that at some point that would have been cleaned up, and it just never did. So I'm not saying it's not possible that USC doesn't clean this up. I just have to think it's probable that after multiple weeks of mesh point issues, that this is something that they are focusing on in practice, that they will figure out, that they will get better at, that they will sort.
I actually think this is a case of optimistic, Alicia.
I have to believe that this won't be an issue in this game. I'm already feeling pessimistic enough about this this matchup. I can't go this far. It's a step too far.
All right. Let's get to our score predictions. Alicia, I'm excited to see what you say here because, well, I know what you say. I'm literally looking at the rundown that's written in there. But I'm excited to hear how you explain it. The Vegas line, Notre Dame 2.5 point favorites at home. Hey, that means SC's favored on neutral field. Hey, should have played the game in Chicago at Soldier Field. Not that it would be completely neutral, but
could play it at Wrigley.
Oh man, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Except Wrigley being available in October, maybe not.
Bill Connolly's SP Plus numbers have the Irish winning 30.3 to USC's 29.9. So the fascinating thing is CFBgraphs.com, their numbers were it was something like 35.24 versus 35.19. It is so even. It is so even by everything. SC and Notre Dame this week. So much of this stuff is flip a coin. What do you got?
I predicted before the season that USC would lose this game because it's the first tough road test, and USC has not won a game in South Bend in a while, and I just didn't have a good vibe. Especially with Notre Dame's defense looking pretty good going into the season. The first 6 weeks of the season for USC have not convinced me otherwise because I do not think USC's defense has improved enough to. That was what was going to make me change my mind here. Is if USC's defense improved, I would be on board. That hasn't happened, so I'm not on board. So I'm picking Notre Dame. I'm sticking with Notre Dame to win this game. My score prediction is 37-35, which flies in the face of the ROT index. I really should have pushed more for 36. Or like 38 or something like that.
How did they get to 37?
I have no idea.
Is it like a last second field goal?
Something weird. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I just feel strongly that USC's defense is a baseline 28, and on the road with Sam Hartman and Estime, who I really, as a running back, I just think is really, really good, really dangerous. That USC's defense will just give up, give up
8 points over that 28.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll give up a weird field goal situation at some point, some weird something, safety, 2-point conversion.
Soccer says safety.
Yeah, however it happens.
When is that safety? Oh man,
Yeah.
is it the end?
My God. However it happens, whatever. I don't really put a lot of stock in the individual numbers on the score prediction, but my thinking is I don't want to predict USC can't score 35 points in any game. I thought it was weird that they couldn't do that in regulation against Arizona.
Yeah.
So my baseline for USC was to score 35 points on a good defense. Like that's the best that a good defense is going to be able to do against USC, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's like, well, yeah, Notre Dame is possibly 2 points better than USC just because they're at home. So yeah, I'm with the HR picking stuff in the chat though. Like I wouldn't touch this game 50-50. I hate having to make a pick here, because the thing is, making a pick here and a score prediction means that you're sort of sticking your neck out on the big questions that this game, I feel, leading into it, are impossible to answer.
Yeah.
It is impossible for me to answer whether or not USC's defense or Notre Dame's offense will be more impotent. It's impossible for me to say whether or not USC's offense will be capable of being unstoppable the way that they have been more often than not this season, but against a good Notre Dame defense that is potentially vulnerable. Like I just don't feel good. I don't feel good either way. I can see this playing out in a million different ways.
Yeah.
This is truly one of those games where it could be 9-12 or 67-65. And I honestly couldn't say that I was surprised by any of those outcomes, because it just has the feeling of a weird rivalry game going in.
There is one thing I'm sure of in this game, and that it will not be a blowout in either direction.
Yeah.
Everything else, I think you're right. I think everything else is in play here. I'm struggling with I as I talk right now, I'm stalling because I can't think of an actual number here, so it's just going to be thrown off the cuff. I will say this: if USC wins this game, it is a 38-28 win. The defense comes through.
Just the 28, the average.
The defense comes through to hold them to that 28.
Yeah.
The defense finds a way to say that actually Notre Dame is sort of just average on offense, and they get a couple stops, and it's that 38-20, basically a redo of last year's game. That's if SC wins this game. That's what I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
If Notre Dame wins this game, I think it's similar in the inverse, but it's more of like a 34-27 for Notre Dame. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I think I split the difference between the two. And I think I just echoed the 2005 game, 34-31. SC wins.
34-31. I think we're both in the agreement that it's just going to be 30-something to 30-something. And
yeah, I don't feel good about this either way. And if you're asking why am I going back on my preseason prediction, given that SC's defensive issues and all those things, and it's a road game, and yes, SC hasn't played well on the road in a lot of games under Lincoln Riley. And why am I going back on that? Maybe I'm just putting too much stock in the last 3 weeks for Notre Dame. I think for multiple reasons. Number one, I think the drop off in having elite offensive numbers to very mediocre offensive numbers against good teams is alarming. Yes, USC's defense is not great. So like I'm not expecting SC's defense to hold them to 13 points or anything like that. Not at all. But I think that that's alarming to Notre Dame's capabilities on offense. And number two, I think that there's a very good chance that Notre Dame has just run ragged these last few weeks. They haven't had a bye week. They've played, this is the fourth straight undefeated opponent that they're having to play. They get SC at home, which is a benefit. But coming off of the Louisville game, like I think the body blow theory absolutely is in play here for them. They have got to be out of gas. And I think that could be a role to play here.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I don't know. So, when in doubt, I ride with Caleb, I guess. So 34-31 is my prediction. So could go either way. Absolutely could go either way. Yeah. Let's get to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right, let's start with a voicemail that we got. 6 game, wrong button. All right, let's start over. The people listening to this on like podcasts
won't hear
this. They won't know. We'll start over. Here we go.
You've got mail.
All right, Alicia, let's start with the voicemail that we got.
Hi, I would like to say this is Sporty, and I would just like to say Lincoln Riley is not a top 5 head coach in college football. He's a top 5 offensive coordinator. That's all he is. You put him on Nick Saban Alabama team, I guarantee that they will win the championship right now. He's just offensive coordinator. That's all he is. That's all he was in Oklahoma too as well. A top 5 offensive head coach, a top 5 head coach period in college football. They have the brains to analyze the offense side, the defense side, and the special teams side. And they would go out and they would get the best coaches for their staff. And then that way they can analyze the whole area. I'll be glad when he move on to the NFL or whatever he's going to do. I just can't take it no more. Their defense is trash. Dallas Grinch needs to go. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for the call. Alicia, what do you think? Is
anyone who is sitting here, any USC fan who is sitting here saying that they'll be glad when Lincoln Riley leaves for the NFL is going to deserve what USC gets when Lincoln Riley leaves for the NFL. You can't have just spent the last 10 years being absolutely just not in the national conversation because the head coaches were not of an upper tier level, and then get Lincoln Riley, who has literally taken teams to the playoff, who has literally won 11 games a season every year, and then say, I can't wait for that guy to leave. It is outrageous to me. Also,
yeah,
I think it's funny that people like I will agree. Lincoln Riley is not a perfect head coach.
Yeah.
He has a blind spot on his defense. That's perfectly fine. But like, how many years did Nick Saban have a blind spot on offense where his every year Alabama's offenses couldn't score 20 points in a big game? They were relying 100% solely.
He had won a title before then.
Yes,
to be
yes.
fair.
But the point is that we see many, many other coaches out there rely on their specialty to be the identity of their team. And when it's a defensive head coach with a strong defense and an offense that can't move the ball, we don't have these same conversations. We only have these conversations about the offensive head coaches who haven't found the right defensive coordinator. Nick Saban hires somebody like Lane Kiffin. Nick Saban hires somebody like Steve Sarkisian. And those offenses suddenly explode and take off and are awesome. And it makes a difference for that dynasty. It makes a difference. Like the idea that Lincoln Riley, I will continue to say, Lincoln Riley is a defensive coordinator away from being up there with, the top 3 head coaches out there. He needs to make that hire. Until he does, he is warranted. The criticism of him is warranted. But to look at what his teams have accomplished in his tenure as a head coach and say he is not a top 5 head coach, to me, is complete and utter madness. And utter because he's doing this without a defensive coordinator.
Right. Well, I think it's fair to say that he's not a top 5 head coach, depending on whatever your top 5 is. That's fine. Whatever.
Well, I mean, I need to hear who are you putting in the top 5 then? Because
sure,
every single person outside of Nick Saban and Kirby Smart that you put in the top 5, I feel
has a fundamental flaw.
Very confident that I will be able to sit there and say, well, this is what they're not doing, or this is what they're not doing, or this is their weakness. This is the thing that they keep getting wrong.
Right.
So
yes,
to me, it's a misread of how many actually good how many actually elite head coaches exist out there to say that, like, to have this opinion. I think there's a lot of USC fans who are living in a dreamland, and I'm surprised that it's been this quick for people to forget what it looked like to not have to have a head coach who truly wasn't in the top 5.
I think it's understandable to get to the point where you can be frustrated with how someone is winning. For instance, we talk about it a lot, but the Bo Pelini situation, right? And see that, that he wasn't going to take the next step and at Nebraska, and be frustrated at that. But that takes years to get to that point. We're a year and a half in, and people are already upset that Lincoln Riley is literally doing the exact same stuff that he did at Oklahoma. And that's supposed to be a con when he made the playoff twice as all these Heisman Trophy winners. SC hasn't had that in recent history. To the point where that's where I know that this team is flawed, obviously, but take a deep breath. Just wait it out. My main pushback, though, is that the idea that he's only a good offensive coordinator. We know coaches who are only good offensive coordinators and not great head coaches. We literally know those guys.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is named Steve Sarkisian. When has Steve Sarkisian taken a team as a head coach to the playoff? When has he had a Heisman Trophy winner that he's coached as a head coach?
Mm-hmm.
Coaches that this label of coaches that are only a good offensive coordinator and not a good head coach. Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah.
Cliff Kingsbury did not take Texas Tech to the playoff. Cliff Kingsbury had Patrick Mahomes and could not win with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Lincoln Riley has a major flaw. Yes, 1,000% over. We can talk about it. But he's not Cliff Kingsbury. He's not Steve Sarkisian. I like Sark.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that situation. It's not that situation. Let's get to a email that we got. Where is this? We got a new email
from Davis.
From Davis. Yes, we're gonna skip down a little bit. Long email, but I want to get to it because I think it's sort of related to this. From Davis, it says, "Hey, Raina Troy, this may sound rich coming from a guy who tweeted at Alicia from the Coliseum on Saturday night that Alex Grinch is legitimately the worst DC in college football. That being said, I wanted to offer up some perspective that I think we can all use as a fan base right now. The year is 2018. A top 5 Oklahoma team goes on the road against a scrappy, outmatched Iowa State team and wins ugly. The next week, they come home to play Army in what everyone is sure will be a resounding bounce-back performance. The Black Knights shockingly give the Sooners all they can handle, taking them to overtime before narrowly losing 28-21. Oklahoma wins that. After the game, many Sooner fans wonder whether other teams have figured out their previously unstoppable offense. Does that sound familiar? That Oklahoma team, which also had an atrocious defense led by an embattled DC, scored 66 the next week, went on to win 12 games, won its conference, and faced Alabama in the playoff. And its quarterback won the Heisman. And then there is 2022, where USC's offense looks totally inept against Oregon State, posts an uneven performance against a bad ASU team, and once again struggles through a grinded-out game against Wazoo. Of course, we all knew how the rest of the season ended. A healthy Caleb Williams, a hamstring away from the playoff. Despite our many flaws, I see no reason why this USC team can't put together a similar run the rest of the season. Curious if you both agree. Thanks for all your incredible work and fight on, Davis, class of 2020.
Yeah, thanks for the email, Davis. Really, really good email. You already know I agree. I agree. I think that that there's some doomsdaying going on here. That's not to say that I think that USC is set up to do the same thing as last year, or even the same thing that Oklahoma team did in 2018. Mostly because the schedule this year, USC literally has the toughest remaining strength of schedule in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So the schedule itself is so very difficult to the point where you can't even USC could lose a couple games and it would just be one of those things where the defense didn't get better the way that they needed to, and the consequence for that is a couple losses down the line, maybe even 3 losses down the line. And you have to sort of hope that's a learning experience for Lincoln Riley, who needs to find his defensive coordinator. But when it comes down to it, this is really good perspective about how people get very in their feelings about the in the moment stuff. And it doesn't all have to be just downhill just because you struggled with Arizona. Like every team struggles every year with some random team. It's about making sure you get out with a win and then give yourself the opportunity to continue winning.
Matthew in the chat says all of Oklahoma's Big 12 schedules are very light. I think comparatively to this schedule, yes, I agree. And I think that's the hang up of why it's going to be extra difficult to get through the season no worse than like 10-2 or whatever. But or 11-1 or whatever number you want to put on that. I think that this team is absolutely capable, because if there's any coach in college football who can win without a defensive coordinator, it's Lincoln Riley. Like, there's literally no question about it. Like, SC has a bad defensive coordinator. Okay, well, you literally have the best coach in college football for that situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's weird to say, but it's true, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, you wish that wasn't the case, but it is the case. And so, going forward, SC has the best quarterback for the situation and the best head coach for the situation. Will they be successful? Maybe, maybe not. I think it's going to be a really difficult road, and we talked about it last year. Yes, they were literally a 2-point conversion away from going to the playoff, but they didn't play Washington and Oregon last year. Would that have been different if they would play Washington and Oregon instead of Washington State and Oregon State? Maybe you can say that they would have lost 2 games in the regular season against those teams. I think that's, it's valid to wonder those things. We'll always wonder if SC stops the 2-point conversion against Cam Rising going into the end zone, and then they play Washington in the Pac-12 championship game. What would that have been like? And I think that one of the big questions, right? But this year they have the opportunity to do that themselves. They have the opportunity to make that happen. They get Michael Penix in 3 weeks. They have the chance to get them while undefeated, but they're going to have to do that. They're going to have to actually win. And the great part about all the struggles that SC has had is it doesn't matter anymore. It's just win. If you just win all your games, you can win your games the rest of the way. They can be as ugly of a win as possible. You will have beaten 5 ranked teams in 6 weeks. That means they're going to the playoff.
Yeah.
Do it again. Would I bet on it? Probably not.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, you have the best coach for that situation.
Yeah.
Let's get to a message we got in Discord from Sean in Mid-City-ish. I'm going to the game, and it'll be my first time at Notre Dame Stadium. And of course, I'm really excited. What are the must-do activities, must-eat foods, either at the stadium or in South Bend? Also, with the rankings, the defense, the weather, and Caleb, what % chance do you think that it will be a supremely memorable game, good or bad? And then I'll get to brag, I was there. I think that's a good chance. Like we talked, I don't think there'll be a blowout either way. So I think there's a very good chance that it ends up being like a memorable I was there kind of moment.
I would agree. I think it's set up to be such a close game that it'll be one of those things. I think it's a lot easier to have an I was there moment if USC wins though. So we'll see
Yeah,
how it could
but-
also just be really painful. I was there.
Yes. I mean, we talked about Caleb having off days. The two worst games he's played at USC. The Oregon State game, the game in which he threw a touchdown pass in the last minute of the game. And the Arizona game, the game in which he literally put the team on his back in overtime and won the game that way. So I think there's even if it's not the perfect opportunity for SC, I think there'll be reasons for you to say that you were there. You and I have both been to South Bend. I've been twice. You've been once. What was your perception of what to do at in South Bend?
Well, I think I don't know that I saw South Bend. I certainly would recommend getting to Notre Dame's campus.
Yeah,
and
I've never really seen the city.
Yeah,
because it's the campus is on the interstate, basically.
Yeah, so get to campus. Make sure you go to the grotto. Make sure you go see Touchdown Jesus. Just walk around. I think it's always. I always really enjoy with an away trip just walking around the campus or the area around the stadium and sort of seeing what it's like. But I don't know. I think that's my must do. I don't even remember if we ate anything before that game. I remember going to Steak and Shake after the game.
We went to Steak and Shake after the game, which was right on the other side of the interstate, which was a problem. Was it I-94 or whatever it is? Never do that. Never do that. We went after the game and it was like a 50-minute wait in line. It was horrible.
It was not good.
Don't do that. I should say that things to do in South Bend. This is not just a South Bend thing, but I like to do this for any sort of road game, at any sort of big game. Be there when the team walks into the tunnel.
Yes.
When the buses are coming out or like unloading, that is the coolest moment, I think.
Yeah.
Get you absolutely amped. Be there for that. It's awesome to see that, especially at Notre Dame, because when Notre Dame comes out, they're playing like all the Dropkick Murphy BS, like, and it's raucous for Notre Dame to come into the stadium, and then SC comes in, or vice versa, and like there's just energy going back and forth. It's great. Absolutely do that. It's fantastic. I've never been to the grotto, but heard great things to go do that. The campus is.
You didn't go with me, or you weren't with me when we went to the grotto?
No.
Oh, so I was just with Trinice. Okay.
Yeah, probably because I was credentialed for the game,
Yeah,
and
you might have
you
had
and Trinice
to-
were in the stands.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never been. I've walking through campus, pretty campus. The dome is cool. Eat foods could not, like, in talking about like game experience stuff like that's there at the stadium. It's your standard fare. I can't think of anything. If you're in that area, I always recommend like finding area things that you can't get at home. If you're staying in Chicago, go to a Portillo's. Go get an Italian beef. Go get some deep dish. Get some tavern style Chicago thin crust, whatever it is, right? If you're in South Bend, I don't know what those things are, but just enjoy the moment, enjoy the crowd outside, be there for when the team comes out, and enjoy how tiny the benches are.
Yes.
It's like a half a cheek bench. So enjoy that.
Before we move on to other questions that we have in the chat, I do want to give a quick update. USC has Mekhi Lemon practicing with the defensive backs today, which doesn't bode well for the health of the secondary.
A clip of Dante Williams suited up with the defensive backs too. Yeah.
Maybe USC's going to have him run out. But Christian Roland Wallace got injured. Damani Jackson has been dealing with an injury, didn't play last week. And I believe there's someone else who also picked up an injury. So that's something to watch. And then also USC has said that there's a competition at right tackle. Michael Tarquin and Mason Murphy are duking it out. They don't know who's going to start at right tackle. So that is something interesting going into the game this week, especially because of the issues that USC had on the offensive line. I like there being competition when there are obvious problems in a unit. So I'm okay with that being a storyline this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Things to keep an eye on.
Shout out to Ryan Carchi and Antonio Morales for updates from
practice.
Yeah,
the
and
Times
Connor Morse.
The Athletic.
Yeah.
And USCfootball.com.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Let's rapid fire the questions we've got in YouTube. Your 5-head says, question, road games have been difficult for USC under Lincoln Riley. How important is it to get off to a good start and keep the Irish fans out of the game? I will say I don't know that that's as much as important as it is to finish the second half. SC got out to a big start against Colorado. They got out to a big lead against Utah. They got out to they were very much in control in the Arizona game last year. There were times that they could have absolutely just knocked out UCLA earlier on in the game. Didn't. I think that bodes well for SC being able to play up early. But the question is, how do they respond in the second half when the home team gets that second wind and gets the second wind of energy and all that stuff?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Although I will say, Notre Dame's coming off 3 really tough games, 2 losses. They just came off a really demoralizing fourth quarter loss against Louisville.
Yeah.
So if you go out there and punch them in the mouth early, that could really help set you up in this game. Play mistake-free football in the first quarter, and I think USC's chances of winning definitely get better. But as you are 100% correct to point out, that USC has not been winning the key quarters in the second half, and that's also going to be key to victory.
Yeah, the other thing is Notre Dame Stadium is a tough place to play. Things don't always go your way there, all those things. But it's not necessarily scary in the Autzen way.
Yeah, it's not
It's not necessarily raucous in that sense. But Clemson has lost there twice recently, right? Like, teams have gone there to die. So and SC knows that more than anybody else. So yeah, absolutely, it's a thing to be concerned about on the road. Ron Murray says, is it weird to think that the last time SC won in South Bend was 2011? Or is that just part of us going through Kiffin, Ogeron, Sark, and the Helton eras?
It doesn't help that 2 of the road trips since then were with an interim coach, like a week or 2 weeks after USC did an early midseason firing. That's not going to help your help your setup for winning a tough road game in South Bend. But it also goes to show that it's very difficult to win road games. It's difficult to win road rivalry games. So that's why the home team tends to have the advantage for a good reason. And Notre Dame has run into that same problem where they don't have a great record at the Coliseum recently either, against teams that weren't necessarily USC's best either. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think the way you look at it, the 2013 the 2013 SC absolutely should have won that game. Notre Dame had Tommy Rees at quarterback and were not interested in doing anything on offense. And SC committed a billion penalties, missed field goals too. Should have won that game. 2015 was the first game under Helton. It was a weird situation. Thought they had bright moments, but like, that's a tough place to take your interim head coach, right? 2017 was the blowout loss. I can sit here and say, but what if Sam Darnold doesn't fumble on the first drive of the game?
Yeah.
And you'd look stupid saying that. So I'm not saying that, but that was horrible. 2019, I thought SC played well and absolutely could have won that game. In 2021,
that was just a bad
again team. An interim head coach. So 3 of those 5 losses are with interim head coaches, and the other one is with Helton, right? So
2017,
yeah. I don't know. I think it's a mixture of both. Jessica says, what is your favorite SC versus Notre Dame moments? There's no question. It can only be one thing.
It's 4th and 9 / the bush.
It's just 4th and 9.
Well, it's the whole end of that game because my memories of it are 4th and 9, and then the bush push and the celebrations and the confusion and jumping around in in our family friends like living room, hurting my ankle because I was jumping around and like limping around for the rest of the day, but sort of just like on a high. Like, yeah, everything about that. And then also getting to relive that whole sequence over and over and over again because every year I rewatch the Trojan Rewind of that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it just absolutely does not get better than that.
Yeah, it's 4th and 9. There's 3 moments in my life, 3 sporting moments in which I've absolutely freaked out and gone literally running through a house screaming. One of them was 16-year-old me running through my parents' house for 4th and 9. Yeah. And the reason I say it's 4th and 9, not the bush push, because the game was over as soon as Dwayne Jarrett caught the ball. It was over. There was no way SC was losing. No chance.
Well, I mean, there was a way that SC was losing if it wasn't out of bounds and set up there were a million ways.
Yes, I've talked about it before. If the grass wasn't shaggier than shaggy,
Jarrett scores and then Notre Dame goes back and scores the other way.
Yes, I am a full believer that if Jarrett scores on that play, Notre Dame wins the game. But he didn't. And after that play, there was I had no doubt that SC was winning the game. So that's why. Maybe I'm crazy. The bush push,
but like the fact that USC won the game does help with the lore of 4th and 9.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean the Nickel Roby interception against Andrew Luck is a moment that I'll remember forever.
Yeah.
Even in a game in which SC lost, but yeah. The other 2 moments, by the way, Alec Martinez, Game 7, beating the Hawks, and then Aramis Ramirez, 2007, home run off of Francisco Cordero, absolutely just ethered the Brewers' chance to win the NL Central. All right. Next question from Steven. Question is, can we win a shootout? I said earlier, I think if there is a shootout, that only bodes well in SC's favor.
So yeah, here's the thing about a shootout. Notre Dame doesn't want a shootout any more than USC does because that means Notre Dame isn't stopping Caleb Williams. And when it comes down to it, in a shootout, more often than not, you're choosing between 2 quarterbacks, and in that equation, I am taking Caleb Williams.
Yeah, for sure. I 100%. Relic says, guys, can I say something crazy? SC has held 5 of the 6 opponents to 28 points or less in regulation. I think that kind of feels like, shouldn't that be enough?
Relic, I love this comment.
I think it is 5. Yeah, 5 or 6 makes sense. Yeah.
I love this comment specifically because
of the index.
This has been going through my head all week. That this is the saving grace of USC's defense. This is the only nice thing I will say about USC's defense. The only optimistic thing I will say about USC's defense, because as everybody knows, I am just out on the defense. If it is simply that USC's defense will give up 10 explosive plays per game and 28 points per game, and that everyone, good or bad, will score that amount, which I think is unrealistic, but possible.
I mean,
then USC can have a really, really good season. If this is just, if USC's defense, like, because what did we talk? We've talked in the past about how, like, the thing about USC's defense is, like, they'll get a bunch of havoc plays, they'll get a bunch of stops, and if they just cut down the explosive plays that they give up, that they would, like, you could get away with giving up 20 some odd points a game.
Yeah.
If the only things you gave up were the handful of explosive plays that you're just going to give up every game. If that is actually creating that window, then
yes, but
then that's possible.
But you've got to stick to it. That's the thing.
Like, yeah, because the thing is, teams like Notre Dame and Washington and Oregon can have, 7 explosive plays that lead to touchdowns, and all of a
Right,
sudden you've
in the
given up
first
49
half,
points. Like, so
Right.
that's where you're playing with fire there in that equation. But I will admit that I have been thinking about that as a possibility. I am not endorsing it as a reality, but my like the optimistic Alicia that's just fighting to
I actually
fighting
think this is a
for
case of optimistic Alicia.
a foothold on anything about the defense has absolutely latched on to what if they just are just going to give up 28 points to everybody, but only 28 points.
If it's only 28 points, they should win every game the rest of the season.
Yes. Yes. I do not think that will be the case.
Should.
But I like,
Yes. But I go back to what we talked about before. It'll be 28 points, but then you are crazy if you don't think that it's 42 against Oregon and Washington minimum.
Yeah.
And 35 against, well, UCLA 35. UCLA's offense is
UCLA is very
UCLA
very
might be the
difficult.
28 point, but the problem is UCLA might hold SC to under 20.
Yeah.
So that might flip it around that way. Ron Murdy says, any thoughts about Lincoln Riley's response to questions about the defense yesterday? I think it's coach speak. He's going to defend his guys.
I think at a certain point you just have to expect the coach to defend his guys, because otherwise what Lincoln Riley is saying in the media is, yeah, our defense sucks, and then everyone's accusing him of throwing his players under the bus. And you just are not going to have coaches do that. The vast majority of them can't get away with it, and the ones that do get away with it are not Lincoln Riley's sort of personality. So
well, I think what people want to hear him say is, yeah, Alex Grinch sucks. Like, yeah, I screwed up by keeping him around, but what can you do? Like, but he's obviously not going to say that. Like that's just not realistic.
Yeah.
Just like everyone wanted, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they wanted Helton to be like, yeah, I'm just bad at this. I'll just resign and take a pay cut. And like, that's not how life works. But yeah, he's defending his team and his guys. There's been more annoying ways for guys to defend their players, like what Dabo does.
Yeah.
Lincoln Riley's not doing the Dabo thing. And he's not necessarily doing the Kirby Smart thing either of the, people thought we were going to be 6-6. But it's in the line of like, just trying to support his guys in the way of optimism inside, whatever it is. Yeah. Quinn says, why has no one pointed out that Caleb has been looking for the big play instead of the play that keeps the ball moving?
Yeah, we had on Discord actually. We had I'm trying to get the name right so I don't mess it up. Stakes on a Plane, who came in and had a really, I thought, thoughtful post talking about how he thinks that Caleb Williams has been kind of greedy, and that he's not taking what's underneath, and he's not taking the sort of 8 yards that the defense is giving him if you want to just take off and run on every play. And I think that there's an element of greediness on the sort of RPO kind of options. And it's difficult because you have to balance. The reason USC's offense is as explosive as it is because Caleb Williams hits those plays and they are effective. But there are moments where it would be nice if USC was a little bit more conservative, a little bit more take what the defense is giving you and just sort of let it be that. So I think it's very, very valid to point that out, that maybe against Arizona, that was one of those days where USC needed to recognize a little bit more quickly that they needed to not try to force it at every turn.
There were a couple deep shots that have turned into the whole like USC special thing again, which is, if you're new around here, it's having a negative play in the first 2 plays and then a deep shot somewhere that just sort of doesn't make any sense, and then you're behind the sticks for a 3rd and long, or maybe it's going throwing a bomb on 3rd and 10, whatever it is, like those sort of situations that end up creating a 3 and out.
To me, it's the 2nd and 10 bomb. I hate the 2nd and 10 bomb. That's just me personally. But also, if you complete that pass, then no one's thinking about it. But when you don't complete that pass, you set yourself up in a 3rd and 10, and then your odds of converting are lower.
So. Yeah, I don't like those. But like you said, when it hits, nobody complains. I don't like those. But outside of that, I think that Caleb Williams is trying to stay in the pocket because I think that a lot of his progression as a football player is to be the most efficient passer he can be. And he has been. This year, he's much better as a sheer passer because that's what's going to take his game to the next level in the NFL. It's not necessarily just making plays outside of the pocket. I think that's why he's stayed in the pocket more. He's tried to throw the ball downfield more. We see this with a lot of dual threat quarterbacks that as they stay in college, they run the ball less because they have more of a more responsibility in the pass game. We saw it with Sam Darnold when he came back his second year. All the talk was, we want him to be able to make the play downfield instead of maybe just run willy-nilly, right? So I think that is part of it too. It has paid off in spades for the most part of the first 5 games. It did not pay off against Arizona. So we'll see how that goes. So
and at a certain point, it did look like Caleb was just saying, okay, fine, I'm just going to run it then.
Right.
So
yeah, for sure. Cam says, would you rather win this game, Notre Dame, or the Oregon game at Eugene?
Oh, it's Oregon.
It's 1,000% Oregon.
Because the thing is, this is an out-of-conference game, and when it comes down to it, USC just needs to get a spot in the Pac-12 title game, give themselves a chance in the Pac-12 title game. And beating Oregon on the road is much more important to that. It's also a more impressive win.
It's also the Oregon game's later in the
season. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're going to be, let's just put it this way. If you're 1-1 on November 12th, the day after the Oregon game.
11-1, you mean?
Yeah. No, if you're 10-1 after the Oregon game, whatever it is, whatever the record is, right? You'd rather have that win against Oregon than against Notre Dame at that point.
Absolutely.
You're feeling better about yourself on November 12th.
Yes.
Glenn says, will we be talking about USC special teams being special again after Saturday? Notre Dame, not good in special teams. They're like, I had it written down on here in our rundown. What are they?
I thought you said it was like 125th or something.
They're 120 something in kickoff return defense. They're 81st in SP plus special teams. Yeah, they're not great there. Yeah. SC has not been great, especially without Zachariah Branch healthy. But I think that could be an area that SC is able to exploit potentially. We'll see. We will see. Anyways, we've got 1 hour and 48 minutes. This is really long. We've gone really long. But the good thing is people are, they're flying. The Rotbots are flying out in droves to take advantage of the DraftKings deal where you can bet $5 and you get $200 instantly if you use $200 instantly in bonus bets if you use the code Reign of Troy. And so this means that we've just taken up like half your flight over there.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's only like 3 hours and 20 minutes of a flight. Yeah. So we've taken up like more than
it.
Yeah, like more than half.
And you know what you should do to thank us for that?
Yeah.
Hit that like button.
Hit the like button.
Hit that like button.
Hit it. Hit it. Right now. Hit it. Hit it.
Now. We'll pause. We'll wait.
Hold on.
Go ahead and do it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Adam. Whew.
Yep.
Thank you. We saw that and we appreciated it.
Yes.
We couldn't do it without you. Tim and Ellie says you guys need practice if they make the Pac-12 championship game and you're going to do a 4-hour podcast so we can listen the whole drive. Yes.
If
this is true,
if USC goes to the Pac-12 championship game, we can arrange for 4 hours of podcasting.
The downside is there's a potential scheduling issue for us that week. Might make it difficult, but we'll find a way.
I'm committed we will to find 4 hours of podcasting. I don't know if my co-host is committed to it.
Yeah. I'll find a way. We will find a way. All right. Thanks, Cam. Cam smashed the like button.
Good job. There
Yeah,
you go.
we-
USC Glenn too.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. We will see you guys if you are part of the Rot Squad, where you can get all of our bonus content for $4.99 a month, including access to the Discord. Then we're going to see you tomorrow night because we'll be back here because that's what we do. We're here 4 days a week, not just 3. We'll be here tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Pacific for Rot After Dark to get you ready for the Notre Dame game, even a little bit more. Or we'll be back Saturday night after the game, right after the game. It's a road game. That means we're right after the game. You're going to watch the game on WNBC, or I guess KNBC. And then you're going to head over to YouTube and watch us in the CarCast. We're going to be talking about this game, of course, and probably end up talking about Oregon-Washington, too. Huge game coming up, but only after we talk about SC and Notre Dame, of course. So check us out there. You know how to leave reviews, all those things, all of that. You know all the stuff to do. So until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.
See ya.